Hello, this is Clark County 911. Can anyone hear me?
At 9:11 a.m., the 911 Emergency Dispatch Center in Athens, Georgia, received a strange call. There was no distress call, no screams, just a series of incomprehensible sounds. Labored breathing, feet pounding on the ground, and then sudden silence. For a few seconds, the call left only a chill and an ominous feeling. At almost the same time, in a small corner of Oconee Forest Park, a popular place for college students to jog, everything was going on as usual. The sun was high in the sky, a gentle breeze was blowing through the leaves, and no one suspected that just a few hundred yards down that deserted trail, something terrible was quietly happening. The central character of the story is Laken Riley, 22 years old. She is a nursing student at Augusta University, a compassionate girl who regularly participates in volunteer activities and loves sports. Her friends call her the gentle light in the classroom, calm, hard-working, and full of ambition. Nearby, a 26-year-old man living temporarily in a residential area near the school, Jose Ibarra, had a different morning. Few noticed that he had been arrested for suspicious behavior before and was living without legal papers. A quiet Thursday morning, a familiar path, a top student, and a mysterious phone call. It started out peaceful, but ended in an event that shook the nation. On the morning of February 22, 2024, like every other day, Laken Riley woke up early, preparing for her usual jog around the University of Georgia campus, where she was studying nursing. At 8:55 a.m., she texted her mother, "Good morning, about to go for a run." A gentle greeting, no one expected that it would be the last text. At 9:03 a.m., she quickly called her mother, then left the dorm. At around 9:05 a.m., a security camera at the Oconee Forest Park trailhead captured Laken jogging, wearing headphones, looking healthy, and neatly dressed in sportswear. At that time, no one knew that a man, Jose Ibarra, 26, was also nearby. He was an undocumented immigrant living in a temporary apartment near campus. The night before the murder, Ibarra was caught on camera wandering around the women's dormitory, peeking through windows, an act that is considered a peeping Tom. No one was present when the tragedy occurred, but the digital evidence tells part of the story. At exactly 9:11 a.m., data from Laken's Garmin smartwatch showed that her heart rate suddenly spiked, then erratically. She promptly activated the emergency mode on her iPhone, the SOS feature that automatically called 911, and sent the coordinates to an emergency contact. The call lasted only a few seconds, during which only heavy breathing and sounds of a struggle could be heard. Based on the investigation data, authorities concluded that, at that time, Ibarra approached Laken from behind as she ran across a clearing. He pushed her off the trail, dragging her into the bushes about 20 meters away. A struggle ensued, marked by scratches on her arms and wrists, indicating that Laken had put up a fight. The attacker used a large rock to hit her in the head. The coroner said she had severe skull fractures and signs of asphyxiation, possibly due to being gagged during the struggle. The initial intent appeared to be sexual harassment, but the attack quickly escalated into a brutal assault. There were no direct witnesses. The street where Laken was attacked was deserted early in the morning. However, several students later reported seeing a strange-looking man in the area that day, but thought little of it at the time. GPS data, security cameras, traces at the scene, and the victim's smart device were silent witnesses, recounting every minute of that fateful morning. There were no clear signs, just fragments, and it was too late. A little after noon that day, in the dormitory of the University of Georgia, a roommate of Laken Riley began to feel uneasy. Laken was punctual and had a clear schedule. Her morning jogs never lasted too long, and she always reported back as soon as she finished. But today, more than 3 hours had passed since the last contact, and Laken's phone was unresponsive. With a bad feeling, the friend used the Find My feature to locate Laken's device. The coordinates appeared, but strangely enough, the iPhone was still standing at a point in the middle of the Oconee forest, not moving for hours. The location was not on the usual running route, but slightly inward, close to the edge of the forest. Sensing something was wrong, the friend immediately called 911 to report it. Less than 30 minutes later, a rapid response team from the Athens Clarke County Sheriff's Department arrived at the GPS location. They began combing the area through the dense foliage and dead leaves. About 65 feet into the trail, they found a shocking scene. Laken's body lay on its side in the brush, half covered with branches and rotting leaves, as if someone had deliberately hidden it. Her clothes were disheveled and an earpiece was still hooked to her shoulder. Her face was bruised and swollen, especially around her forehead and temple. Her left hand was clenched and covered in dirt and dried blood. Perhaps she had fought to the last. An officer on the search team later described the scene as unforgettable. The air around the scene was thick with silence. Police immediately cordoned off the area, set up a crime scene, and called in forensics and digital forensics to assist in the investigation. The emergency call from the roommate, though not a direct witness, was crucial in locating and discovering the scene early. Had it been a few hours later, vital traces and evidence could have been destroyed by weather and animals. This was more than just the discovery of a body. It was the moment an ambiguous missing person case became a serious criminal investigation. And in the eerie silence of the woods, the questions began to ring out. What happened to Laken Riley? Who did it? And for what reason? Immediately after identifying the body in the Oconee Forest area, the forensic team and investigators quickly established a perimeter to protect the scene. Although located near a popular student-running trail, Laken's body was found in an inconspicuous location, about 20 meters from the path, hastily covered with leaves and dry branches. The scene gave off a sense of both haste and purpose. Several shoe prints led from the main trail deep into the body, but the tracks were interrupted by the thick layer of leaves. In the nearby bushes, the staff discovered a large rock stained with dried blood, possibly the murder weapon. Additionally, a cloth glove and several pieces of fabric were scattered around the scene, not part of the victim's clothing. On-site fingerprinting revealed no dragging marks, indicating that the assault and death occurred at the same location. This narrows down the hypothesis. The victim was not taken from elsewhere. The autopsy was conducted the same day. The initial report showed that Laken died from severe head trauma and asphyxiation. There were a total of 4 fatal head injuries, all caused by a strong impact from a hard object. The time of death was determined to be around 9:28 a.m., based on smartwatch data, which matched exactly when the victim lost her biosignal. Notably, Laken's fingernails contained foreign skin tissue and cells, indicating that she had resisted fiercely. Forensics obtained a complete DNA sample from it, opening up an important line of investigation. In addition, there were many scratches and abrasions on her wrists and arms, injuries commonly seen during a struggle. There were no signs of knife or gun marks. The murder weapon was determined to be a makeshift object, an object taken at the scene, such as a rock. One curious detail was that Laken's iPhone was thrown nearly 7 meters away from the scene, landing in another bush. Despite minor damage from the impact, the phone still recorded an automatic SOS signal and its last known location. In a rare stroke of luck, an unfamiliar fingerprint was faintly imprinted on the screen, a sign that someone else had handled the device after her. From the scene, investigators determined that this was not a completely spontaneous attack. There were signs that the perpetrator had followed the victim beforehand, chosen a secluded location, and tried to hide his final act. The initial clues, from bloodstains, murder weapons, to DNA samples, all showed that this was a serious case, but also a case that could be traced if persistent. That forest was no longer a peaceful jogging place. It had become the first scene to reveal the secret of a crime that shocked America. Immediately after the conclusion of the crime scene and autopsy, the investigative clues began to be built up quickly. Although the perpetrator had tried to cover his tracks, the evidence collected from the body and the surrounding area created clear pieces of the puzzle. This was not a random act, but an attack with signs of surveillance and preparation. Initially, Athens police worked with the FBI and digital experts to review movement data in the area where the murder occurred. Cameras at the dormitory gates and intersections around the jogging track were extracted between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Among the dozens of people appearing on the cameras, one image attracted particular attention. It was a young man wearing a gray shirt and a hood, walking slowly around the blocks in the University Village area the night before the incident. The recording time was 11:48 p.m. on February 21st, just a few hours before Laken disappeared. He stopped several times observing apartment windows, with behavior marked as peeping, meaning peeping. Some students had previously reported a strange man appearing near the female student area, but there were no specific clues. Through the camera, the man's image was compared to an internal database. Police quickly identified him: Jose Antonio Ibarra, 26, a Venezuelan national who illegally entered the United States through the southern border in 2022. He was living unregistered in an apartment rented by his younger brother near campus. The next morning, Athens police conducted an administrative check at Ibarra's residence. He did not resist when invited to the station for clarification. During a search of the apartment, they found an unemptied garbage bag containing a gray jacket and a pair of cloth gloves, both stained with blood. Blood samples were immediately sent for testing. That same day, when preliminary test results showed that the blood matched that of Laken Riley, the police formally arrested Jose Antonio Ibarra, indicting him on the first charge, suspicion of first-degree murder. At the police station, Ibarra was initially cooperative. He admitted to being in the Oconee area that morning, but claimed he was just out for a walk. During the first interview, Ibarra said he didn't know anyone named Laken Riley and denied any involvement. However, during the second round of questioning, when confronted with the camera footage and the location of the victim's phone, his testimony began to contradict. At times, he said he was home, and at other times, he said he had fallen asleep in the park because he was drunk. These changes further raised suspicions of a cover-up. The investigators used psychological tactics, showing that Ibarra was the person who had been indisputably identified by a faint fingerprint on Laken's iPhone screen. Evidence obtained through digital analysis. Small cuts on Ibarra's hand were also used to suggest a struggle, and DNA testing was also used. When informed of the DNA match with the sample collected under the victim's fingernails, Ibarra's face changed color. However, he remained silent for hours, neither admitting nor denying. The twist came when police retrieved data from Laken's Garmin smartwatch. The device accurately recorded his movement parameters, heart rate, and the time when it suddenly stopped working. That time, 9:28 a.m., coincided with the time when security cameras recorded Ibarra leaving the campus and entering a deserted road near the woods. The digital team also discovered that the Bluetooth signal from Laken's iPhone had connected to Ibarra's phone within a radius of less than 2 meters. Additional evidence confirming that the two were very close to each other during the time of the incident. The decisive step was a search warrant for the trash bin of the apartment complex where Ibarra lived. There, investigators found bloodstains on the left glove, the inner jacket, and the medical mask. All had Laken Riley's DNA. After nearly 96 hours of continuous investigation, the case file was completed with key evidence. DNA matched the victim's fingernails, and blood on Ibarra's clothing. Ibarra's fingerprints were on Laken's phone. Security cameras recorded the suspect's suspicious movements before and after the murder. Garmin and Bluetooth data confirmed physical interaction between the two devices. Police charged Jose Antonio Ibarra with a total of 10 criminal charges, including malice murder, felony murder, kidnapping with bodily harm, assault with a weapon with intent to commit rape, intentionally blocking an emergency call, and peeping Tom. The investigation was concluded by forwarding the entire case file to the prosecutor's office to prepare for trial, and now justice for Laken Riley is just beginning to enter its decisive phase. On November 15, 2024, the trial of Jose Antonio Ibarra officially opened in Clark County Courthouse, Georgia. Notably, the defendant waived his right to a jury trial. Instead, he requested a bench trial, where the verdict would be delivered in person by Judge Patrick H. Haggard. The courtroom was packed and tense from the start. The prosecutor presented a strong case. From DNA evidence, fingerprints, digital data, to testimony about prior stalking. One of the most haunting details was when the prosecutor played the recording of the 911 emergency call. The sound echoed through the speakers. Gasps, hurried footsteps, then silence. At that moment, Allison Phillips, the victim's mother, burst into tears. No one in the courtroom could keep calm. Ibarra's defense attorney attempted to argue that the incident was not premeditated murder, but this argument was quickly dismissed by the completeness and consistency of the evidence. After just 4 days of trial, on November 20th, Judge Haggard found Jose Antonio Ibarra guilty of all 10 counts and sentenced him to life in prison without parole. The defendant's actions were cruel, deliberate, and intolerable in a civilized society, he stated. The verdict immediately created a wave of public opinion. Locals expressed outrage and called for tighter immigration enforcement. For them, justice had been served for Laken Riley, but at a painful price. Laken Riley is no more. A young girl with a warm heart and a bright future has gone forever just because of a normal jog. Something she did every morning. The family lost a daughter, friends lost a friend, and society lost a good citizen, a future nurse on the way to serve the community. Behind the heavy sentence is an unfillable void. This case not only shocked Athens, but also made the whole U.S. look back at the loopholes in the system, from immigration management, public security, to ensuring personal safety in public places. The question is not only who did it, logically, but also why did it happen? The social message could not be clearer. Vigilance is never too much. Technology, like GPS tracking devices and smartwatches, has helped solve the case, but more importantly, it has been a wake-up call for women to be safe, especially in places that seem the safest, like school campuses. And finally, we wonder, if the legal system had worked more effectively, if warnings from earlier irregularities had been acted upon promptly, would Laken still be alive? Would a bright future have been cut short by indifference? Laken's story is more than just a heartbreaking one. It is a reminder of the fragility of human life, of the value of justice, and of the responsibility each of us bears, not just to remember, but to act.
Phoenix 911, where is your emergency?
Oh, I just found a woman's body out in the desert going for a walk, and she's there. I didn't touch her. I didn't feel safe, but it looks like she's been there for a while.
The emergency call was recorded on the morning of April 29th, 2023, in Phoenix, Arizona, USA. A hiker on the Reach 11 Trail, a quiet place and often visited by locals for exercise, accidentally discovered the body of a young woman. It was Lauren Heike, 29 years old, who had just gone missing the day before. Lauren is not a stranger in the small community in Phoenix. She works in the beauty industry, lives an active life, and loves outdoor activities. Every day, she chooses to start the morning by walking, breathing fresh air, exercising both physically and mentally. But the morning of April 28, 2023 was different. She left home with a bright smile, steady steps, but never returned. The incident quickly made waves in the local media and shocked the whole United States. A young, happy woman was taken from her life on a familiar street. What happened? Who could be so cruel as to kill someone who had no ill will? The investigation began, a months-long investigation that revealed a suspect who lived right in the community and a shocking motive. Lauren Heike was born in 1993 in Arizona, the only daughter in a middle-class family. Since childhood, she has stood out with a gentle personality, always caring and helping others. After graduating, Lauren pursued a career in beauty and healthcare, with the dream of making a positive difference in the lives of others. She used to work at a local spa, where customers often praised her, not only for her good skills, but also for the warm smile that was always present on her face. Lauren's life revolves around simple but meaningful things: a stable job, time for family, relaxing walks after work, and sharing everyday moments on social networks. In the photos posted, Lauren often appears in nature, with bright sunlight and a bright smile, an image that brings a sense of peace to viewers. At the time of the incident, Lauren lived alone in a small apartment in North Phoenix. Despite her independence, she kept in regular contact with family and friends. Reach 11 Trail, the trail she chose that day, was not only a familiar place, but also a private place that helped her relax and regain her balance. But in that place that once brought peace, the unthinkable happened. On the morning of April 28, 2023, the Phoenix sky was clear, the sun shining brightly through the trees along the Reach 11 Trail. It was a day like any other for Lauren Heike. She woke up early, ate a light breakfast, changed into her gym clothes, and sent a simple text message to her mother. "I'm going for a short walk today, and then I'll stop by the spa." At around 10 a.m., Lauren began her usual route along the trail. Other hikers remembered seeing her, with her blonde hair tied back, her brisk gait, and her calm demeanor. No one could have guessed that it would be the last time they saw her. Lauren's phone went dead that afternoon and evening. Calls from her family went unanswered. By evening, worry turned to panic. Her mother tried to contact her several times, but to no avail. Friends also confirmed that she did not show up at work. A missing person report was filed with Phoenix police that night. No one suspected that, at that time, Lauren could be in danger. Something unusual had happened on the road that was supposed to be peaceful. And while everyone still had hope, the truth was slowly being buried under the lush green foliage, just a few steps away from the trail. Based on surveillance camera footage and crime scene investigation results, Phoenix police reconstructed the final hours of Lauren Heike's life, a short but dramatic and haunting series of events. At approximately 10 a.m. on April 28th, Lauren began her hike. While moving along Reach 11 Trail, she was unaware that a man had secretly followed her from behind, taking advantage of the dense and deserted terrain to hide. Through surveillance video collected from nearby homes, police determined that this person had unusual behavior, moving quickly, constantly observing the surroundings with a furtive look. As Lauren entered a less frequented area, the suspect is said to have suddenly approached from behind. According to the forensic report, she was attacked in a defenseless position, indicating that the act was carried out quickly and unexpectedly. Several of the injuries on the victim's body indicated an unsuccessful attempt to escape. After the crime, the suspect fled the scene via a side trail leading to a residential area behind. There were no direct witnesses, but shoe prints, fabric fibers, and biological evidence at the scene played a significant role. A nearby neighborhood camera captured the suspect running away, heading toward a residence just over a mile away, a clue that helped authorities begin to narrow down the suspect. On the morning of April 29, 2023, the atmosphere on the Reach 11 Trail was as peaceful as usual. Locals began their daily walks and jogs, But for a middle-aged woman hiker, that morning became an unforgettable memory. While crossing a less traveled section of the trail, she noticed something unusual among the low bushes along the path. A strange, silent, motionless object. When she got closer, she discovered that it was a woman lying face down, wearing sportswear, showing no signs of movement. Sensing something was wrong, she immediately called 911 and described the situation. She was unconscious. I didn't see her breathing. Within minutes, police and medical forces were present. The scene was quickly sealed off. After a preliminary examination, the rescue team confirmed that the victim had no signs of life. The victim was identified shortly afterwards as Lauren Hike, who had been reported missing the previous evening. Lauren's body was found about 4.5 meters from the main walkway in a secluded area. The position and position of her body suggested that she may have attempted to escape, but was unsuccessful. The surrounding evidence was a clear warning that this was not a random incident. The case was immediately turned over to a criminal investigation. Immediately after confirming the victim was Lauren Hike, the authorities sealed off the entire area around where the body was found. The crime scene was considered complex, located in a densely wooded area about 4.5 meters from the main trail, a location that was difficult to observe if not paying close attention. Investigators collected all suspicious traces: footprints leading from the trail to the body area, a few small fibers stuck to tree branches, and especially strange shoe prints near the body, different from the type of shoes Lauren was wearing. They also carefully checked all security cameras in nearby houses, hoping to capture images of someone passing by at the suspected time. Lauren's body was sent for forensic examination the same day. The forensic report showed that she had been stabbed multiple times in the back and body, a total of 15 wounds. This indicated a sudden attack from behind. There were no signs of a prolonged struggle, but there were some scratches on her hands and knees, indicating that she had tried to resist and escape in desperation. Based on the initial evidence, Phoenix police determined that this was a deliberate, targeted attack. The investigation was launched with the assistance of crime scene experts, forensic experts, and video analysts. The investigation team reviewed hundreds of hours of camera footage within a 2-mile radius of the crime scene. A residential video showed a young man, dressed in black, running quickly away from the trail around the time the incident was believed to have occurred. His suspicious behavior and the way he kept turning his head to look around made him a suspect. Police began cross-referencing the data with people with criminal histories who lived in the area. One name quickly emerged: Zion Teasley, 22, who had been arrested for assault and organized theft. He lived only about 1.5 miles from the scene. What was remarkable was that Teasley's profile and clothing were a close match to the person in the video. Next, the police collected DNA data from biological evidence left on Lauren's shoes, an important factor. After analysis, the results confirmed that the DNA sample matched Zion Teasley. The police had enough grounds to make an arrest. After DNA testing confirmed that the biological sample found on Lauren's shoe matched Zion Teasley, Phoenix police took urgent action. On May 4, 2023, authorities tracked Teasley's movements for several hours before executing an arrest warrant in a residential area near where he lived. The arrest was quiet, without resistance. At the time of the arrest, Teasley appeared surprised but remained calm. He was taken to the Phoenix police station for further questioning and investigation. When the news of the arrest was announced, local media reported it, and residents in the area expressed surprise and concern at learning that the suspect lived so close to their community. Some neighbors said that Teasley had appeared quiet, had little communication, and often went out at odd hours. During the initial interrogations, Zion Teasley denied any involvement in Lauren Hike's death. He appeared confused when asked about the time and place on April 28th. However, when police presented DNA evidence, surveillance video, and phone location information, Teasley began to change his attitude. According to the investigation records, one of the first sentences Teasley uttered after being confronted was, "It was me, I think. I don't know." That vague statement opened a series of contradictory statements, forcing investigators to be careful with each question. Teasley said that he went for a walk that day to clear his mind, with no intention of contacting anyone. However, when asked why he was near the scene and why there was DNA on the victim's shoe, he could not give a reasonable explanation. Additionally, phone records showed that he had accessed news articles about the case before his arrest, a detail that raised suspicions about his own monitoring of the case. During the interrogation, investigators also discovered that Teasley had shown signs of mental instability and had written diary entries expressing personal frustration, feelings of inferiority and jealousy towards those around him. After conducting interviews and collecting statements from suspect Zion Teasley, investigators moved on to the stage of strengthening the case file, an important step to ensure that all evidence is tested and fully prepared for trial. First, the DNA test results were considered key evidence. The DNA sample collected from the victim Lauren Heike's shoe was a perfect match to Teasley's. This was clear physical evidence showing that the suspect had direct contact with the victim or was present at the scene at the time of the incident. Next, surveillance video recorded by a resident's camera was carefully analyzed. The image showed a man with a body shape, clothing, and gait matching Teasley, leaving the trail area at a time that coincided with the estimated time Lauren was attacked. Additionally, location data from cell phones also helped determine the suspect's location in the crime scene during the crucial time frame. Text messages, browsing history, and unusual behavior on social media platforms were also extracted to support the investigation. With this evidence, prosecutors believe they have enough grounds to charge Teasley with serious harm, paving the way for prosecution in the Arizona State High Court. After completing the investigation file with sufficient evidence, suspect Zion Teasley was formally indicted on a charge of first-degree murder. The trial was originally scheduled for October 2025 in Maricopa County Superior Court, Arizona. However, due to a number of legal factors, including the emergence of additional charges related to Teasley's previous actions, the trial was postponed to January 2027. Throughout the preparation for trial, prosecutors and defense attorneys repeatedly requested additional time to review evidence, obtain additional witness statements, and evaluate the defendant's psychological profile. Lauren Heike's family has repeatedly expressed frustration with the delay and called on the legal system to act decisively to bring the case to light. As the trial began, the jury was asked to carefully consider all the evidence: surveillance video, DNA testing, witness statements, and the suspect's behavior before and after the crime. The prosecution emphasized the victim's surprise and defenselessness, arguing that the act was intentional and extremely dangerous to society. Teasley's defense attorney argued that the defendant's mental state was unstable and asked the court to consider criminal responsibility based on medical factors. However, the prosecutor argued that the preparation and behavior after the crime did not indicate a momentary loss of control. The case is still pending, with the defendant facing the most severe penalties under Arizona law if convicted. The Lauren Heike case is not only a heartbreaking event in the city of Phoenix, but also a profound reminder to the community about the fragility of life and the importance of vigilance in daily life. For the victim's family, the pain of losing a daughter, a sister, a friend is irreplaceable. Lauren was described as a loving person, always ready to help others and carrying a positive, sociable spirit. Her departure has left a big void in the hearts of her loved ones. Lauren's parents could not hide their emotions in many statements to the media. They shared that Lauren was a child who always lived life to the fullest, knew how to care for others, and had a dream of developing a career in the healthcare industry. The sudden and cruel loss of her chance to live has left them not only heartbroken, but also determined to pursue justice to the end, so that their daughter's name will not be forgotten, and that what she represents, kindness and goodness, will continue to spread. Since Lauren's case, many Arizonans have joined campaigns to raise awareness about personal safety when participating in outdoor activities, especially for women. Hiking trails have been required to install additional lighting systems, security cameras, and increased patrols during less crowded hours. Local communities have also stepped up organizing group hikes to reduce risks. Legally, the case also highlights the importance of dealing with dangerous behavior early. Suspect Zion Teasley's record shows that he had a criminal record, but he lived in the community without clear supervision. Many question whether Lauren's death could have been prevented if the legal control system was tighter. In the end, this case teaches not only about loss, but also about the responsibility of each individual to build a safer community. Lauren Heike's story, though painful, has become a symbol of solidarity, a wake-up call for vigilance, and a call to action to prevent similar tragedies from happening again. Lauren is gone, but her memory lives on, like the gentle sunlight on the trails she loved.